What is up? I am one of your co-hosts for the Panthers on Tap Draft Crush show. My name is Edgar Salmingo Jr. That is Ricky Rains. Ricky, how you doing today?
Man, I'm good. Happy to be here again. You know, Edgar, you and I had a bunch of stuff that we wanted to do this pre-draft cycle. We had show ideas, all cool stuff that we wanted to get done and ran out of time. So instead, now we're just like cramming everything into like a 3-day period where we're like, hey, let's do 42 shows tomorrow and see if we can get everything knocked out. I'm excited for it though. This is a cool idea because, you know, last year in the draft guide, Edgar, you and I had our Panthers predictive drafts in there towards the end of it. And so the idea here for this one, spoiler alert, is we're going to do our predictive mock drafts, but we're going to do it live so that people can see us pick with the draft simulator, see how it unfolds. We're going to use one draft, and Edgar, you could give a little bit more context into that. But we're going to use one draft simulator here, and Edgar and I will make our picks.
Yeah. So first of all, if you're not to echo Ricky's point, if you're not tired of us yet, you will be tired of us by the end of this week. So thank you again for all those who checked out the Carolina draft guide. For those who joined us for the show yesterday and who are with us today, I know some of you maybe mock draft outs. I know my timeline is full of different predictions and tea leaves, and so Ricky and I want to do just one final predictive mock draft. What do we think is going to happen tomorrow? Not what we want to do, not what Ricky wants to do. Like now that we've had all the information of visits, of profiles, of beat writers talking about what their plans are, press conferences. Let's sit down. Let's do this live. Let's join us. Let's all of us be joined together and think about a predictive mock draft. What we think the Panthers are going to do tomorrow.
Yeah, you don't want to see what I would do. I'd have what, like 13, 14 trades. I'd just be wheeling and dealing like Ric Flair in an old limousine. And that would just be too much for everybody. All right. First off, real quick, let's talk to the people in the chat. Hotspur G, what's up, boys? What's up, Hotspur? How you doing? Clay Wright, my man. Clay, first of all, thank you, man, for your donation for the draft guide. Saw that this morning. What up, fellas? Y'all making work a little more enjoyable today. I hope so, Clay. And we'll be back on tonight with the Panthers on tap for the final mock draft with the roundtable like we usually have with Kevin Avery from the Four-Man Crush, our good pal JJ Hardy, Panthers culture, and the esteemed Edgar Salmingo Jr. will also join Curtis and I on Panthers on tap tonight to do our final on tap draft. Katie, get after
four-man rush, Ricky.
What did I say? What did I say?
Four-man crush.
I said four-man crush? Did I really?
That's what I heard. I mean,
man, I see. Look, you get me on this draft crush kick, and that's all I can think about, man. Like,
but it makes a good collaborative idea.
It's kind of catchy, man. I don't hate it. It kind of sounds a little bit more like a Harry Styles song than a draft show, but you know, hey, that works too. I've been listening to Harry Styles all week too, man. Carolina Nate, what's up, guys? What's up, Nate? Appreciate you being here too, man. All right, so we're gonna get straight into this because we got about that 2:00 cutoff that we had last time. And you know how you and I do, Edgar. When we start doing these mock drafts, we can talk about pick one for about, I don't know, 47 of our 60 minutes. So I will go ahead and bring this up for everyone. While I'm doing this, Edgar, if you want to kind of speak to the people on it.
Yeah, so as Ricky brings this up, we're trying to do a dueling mock draft, but instead of doing it back to back, we're going to have Ricky's insert into the mock draft simulator. I'm going to say who I'm going to pick. I'll write it down on the side. This will probably be one of the last pages of the Carolina draft guide. We'll also put it online. But, you know, you folks watching, people in the chat, whatever, you know, feel free to put your predictions as well, because this is not, again, what we would do. We are trying our best to predict what the Panthers would do.
Correct. That is right. I think I was trying to get the screen bigger, but I think that's about as big as I can get and have everything on there. All right, here we go. So you can see here, we got the simulator loaded up. This is just regular stuff. I've got it on the fast speed so that we don't have to see which, you know, maybe we should have done it a little bit slower. Should I go back and reset it if you want to make any trades or anything like that, Edgar? Like if we want to watch a player.
Are you predicting a trade? Because like I suck at predicting trades and
I don't know, man, because I do feel like they would like to. If like there's certain players that are available, I think that they would absolutely milk a situation.
Right.
I'm going to go back and actually.
We can't do it. We can't duel. Well, how about this? If you do a trade, we can duel with a trade in.
No, you're right. You're right though, because if we do a trade, man, it changes everything. So we can't do that. So we're just gonna go straight down. All right, good. It's less buttons for me to push, less shit for me to mess up. So this works out. All right, all right. So we're starting the draft off. Let's see what we had happen in front of us. Shocker, Fernando Mendoza is the number 1 overall pick. But I do think that this Spencer Fano here at 8 is interesting for the Panthers. Monroe Freeling there at 11 is interesting for the Panthers. Dylan Thieneman goes 12. That is a hot name for a lot of Panthers fans. Emmanuel McNeil Warren, overdrafted, I mean drafted at 17 to the Detroit Lions. Okay. That tells me, Edgar, looking at this board, right, of pick, that tells me that a lot of names fell. Kenyon Sadiq being 1, Jordan Tyson being the 2nd that sticks out to me immediately. I think that those were the names that people were very interested in for the Carolina Panthers. What would you like to do here? What would you like to see? Do you want me to make my pick first on this?
Yeah, go first.
Oh no, that's terrible news for me.
Come on, you're the draft guru. You should have this like in the back.
I don't have the slightest clue of what I want to do here. Okay, so looking at it.
By the way, Ricky, while you're thinking,
Yeah,
maybe another good thing, because this is predictive. So even
yeah,
though some guys are out there, like let's just say Jordan Tyson's out there, right? Like
mm-hmm.
I might like if this was a situation, I think the Panthers would draft Jordan Tyson, but I'm gonna do my predictive presume. I know it's hard because like there's people that are on the board that maybe could have fallen down, but
Right.
just in the spirit of predictive nature, I probably won't take someone that I don't think
Okay.
would be.
So okay, I got you.
That's my personal one.
So we're not necessarily using the simulator 100% to its scenario as much as we are a place to house our predictive things. And if there is somebody on the board that makes sense for our predictive, we're also going to include that or whatever. Is that that kind of like how we're doing this?
I mean, that's my philosophy, but if you want to do your own,
no, because I think that we got to do it the same way, man, or else it doesn't matter. You know,
we're just trying to predict what's happening tomorrow, and then we can do it in any former fact. Like, if you really think the Panthers are going to draft Jordan Tyson tomorrow, by all means, draft Jordan Tyson. But I just don't. I personally, if I had to bet money, I wouldn't bet that they're taking Jordan Tyson tomorrow.
Okay. So I think that Monroe Freeling is a name that I'm really watching for tomorrow. I'm going to bring that up first. I think that tackle intrigues them a lot. As well as Fano, the tackle from Utah. I think that they have real interest in both of those guys based off of positional thresholds, first of all, for Monroe Freeling, second of all, positional versatility for Fano. And I think the wide receiver talk I don't think is fake. I don't think that it is total smokescreen. I think they do have interest in bringing in a weapon for Bryce Young. I'm not entirely sure that the quality of offensive line is the same, or specifically offensive tackle is the same outside of round 1 that it is here in the early part of this draft. So I think what I'm going to do here is I'm going to target an offensive lineman, which is somebody that stuff that I've been talking about from the beginning of this, that I thought offensive line was a position that we needed to be really focused on and looking at. The comments about not drafting for depth did not scare me off of it, because I don't think that our current setup with Rasheed Walker and Stone Forsyth is necessarily the starting combination you want. I think that they could have somebody else start halfway through this year. And if Icky doesn't come back, they need a second plan. I'm going to go Caden Proctor here. And I know that a lot of people aren't going to like it. But Caden Proctor has the positional versatility that you can use him as a right tackle. You can use him as a right guard, left tackle. I think that they're going to hope that he can win the job, maintain his conditioning and strength, and weight to a place where he's, very viable on that left blind side. But he's got a lot of forgiveness to him. And I think that his ceiling as a guy 6'7", 360 pounds, 350-ish, really, his ceiling, I think, is as high as anybody in this class. And I think that they love his run blocking immediately out of the gate. Edgar, do you want me to let you look around at players first? Before we do any of this?
For at least for this pick, I got a sense of who I want.
Okay.
I will follow the trail. I will follow the smoke. I know wide receiver is one of the hottest positions that they've been looking at round 1. Mike K, beat writer or writer, Charlotte Observer, just kind of casually put up in his podcast today that he's been hearing stuff about Casey Concepcion. I think of the two between Casey Concepcion and Omar Cooper, I think they fill two different needs or positional uh, weaponry when you're looking at the
Mhm.
wide receiver room. Like there's two different ways that they win, and I feel like KC is that type of person that would do what they were looking for: a speed element, a yak element. I know there's always going to be people going to be commenting about his hands, but if I had to make a prediction as of today, I think I might go with Casey Concepcion.
All right, so you're gonna go Casey Concepcion. I'm gonna go Caden Proctor. And dang it, man, I don't know if that's the right pick because Caden Proctor's probably. I don't know that Caden Proctor's gonna be there, so I'm having a hard time with this predictive thing that maybe I should be taking somebody else. In fact, you know what? Maybe I'll go Caleb Lomu because I think that he's there, and I think that he also fits a lot of what they're looking for.
Mhm.
Um, Basically, I just want to take a tackle, and I'm just trying to think of the right predictive tackle. You know what? I'm going to go Caleb Lomu because I think
For
there's a
fun,
better chance of him being there.
do you think somebody else will be there that got taken? Because this is predictive. So
If Dylan Thieneman is there, I do think that that's the person that they want. You
yeah,
know, I like the way that they wanted Tedero McMillan last year, right?
yeah,
Like you could tell that was their guy. That's who they
yeah,
wanted to have all around. But they
yeah,
probably had a lot of work done to be prepared for him not being there because of how good
uh,
of a prospect they believed he was and how much
yep,
interest the rest of the league apparently had in him.
mhm,
Um, so I think that this is a scenario where if Dylan Thieneman is there, I think they run to
mhm.
the podium and take him. I don't think that Casey Concepcion, I don't think that Caden Proctor, Caleb Lomu, Spencer Fano, I'm not sure that any of them would trump Dylan Thieneman for them.
But
I think that
the
he's a
million dollar
perfect fit.
question, the $1 million question is, do you think he's going to be there at 19?
I don't really. I don't have a
Okay,
great feeling about that.
okay,
I think he could be there at
17.
14 and that they could trade up.
Okay,
14. I'm watching the Baltimore Ravens at 14, if you want my honest
okay,
opinion.
okay.
Um, I think that if he gets to that close and you can jump in front of the Buccaneers, in front of some of these other teams, the
Hmm.
Vikings, I 100% think that they might have interest in doing that.
Okay.
So Dylan Thieneman would be my pick here if all things were equal, but instead I am going to go Caleb Lomu, man, because also you know what? Remember they were at the Utah Pro Day,
Yep.
got a good look, and all of the talk was about Spencer Fano. But then we find out that they had extensive meeting with Caleb Lomu as well, right? And let's say
Yep.
that they do trade back. I think Caleb Lomu is a terrific trade back possibility as well. If they go anywhere from 21 to 28 in that range, I think that
Mhm.
he's another player really high ceiling, man. And this is a young player that has played really well at a great big time position, and he meets most of their thresholds from a size standpoint. So
Mhm.
he just makes a ton of sense for me, man. And I think that he's getting overlooked a little bit in this class. But maybe that whole Spencer Fano thing of we think he could play left tackle, maybe
Mhm.
that's smoke screen too by the Carolina Panthers, right? They don't want anyone to know that they're high on Caleb Lomu because they don't want
Yeah.
that run on offensive linemen. They don't want to tip their hand that that's the guy that's they're hoping for, right?
I mean, yeah. I mean, we know the Panthers. If anyone's asked them about a prospect, they're gonna say, yeah, they're great. Yeah, they're good. Yeah, they have
Yeah.
strength. So why? I don't think they would say like, what do you think about Spencer Fano? Oh, we don't like him. He's too small. Oh, his arms are too short. They're not gonna say that out loud.
And then the other thing that we haven't even talked about here, though, which I feel foolish about not having talked about it, is
Mhm.
Kenyon Sadiq there, sitting right there, staring at us. And he's tight end one. He's been linked to the Panthers for most of this pre-draft process. The Panthers are in need of a tight end,
Mhm.
I think at least. Maybe they're happy with JT Sanders, Tommy Tremble, and Mitch Evans, perhaps. But I think that it would be pretty obvious that that would be appealing. Question is, do they value Kenyon Sadiq as a round one prospect? He does not hit their thresholds. He is a different build for that position than historically they have shown interest in. And really, the NFL has shown a lot of interest in, right?
Mhm.
Um, but he is a freaky athlete, man. Freaky, freaky athlete. Talk about a
Yep.
yak weapon. He should translate into that. I'd like to see
Yep.
more of it.
Yep.
Um, so dang it, man. Am I just like talking myself out of all of my stuff now? What's happening here?
I should also mention that Lomu did have a private visit with the Panthers, so there's that plus the pro day. So
I'm going Lomu. See, thank you. Thanks for bringing me back to where I want to be. All right. So Caleb Lomu, I'm going to send this pick in. You have yours written down. You took Casey
yep,
Concepcion, correct?
yep, yep.
Okay, cool.
This is
Looking
no
at
fun.
this,
Are you
well,
sure? Are you sure your settings are correct? Just heads up, Ricky, because
I'm positive my settings are correct this time. They are all basic correct settings this time.
okay, just making
Um,
sure.
Casey Concepcion went 42 here in this simulator, by the way, which is
That's what I'm
crazy.
saying. Like these are all.
I'm
Did you like
positive they're the same
is the?
set. They're regular settings.
I'm just take a look at
No,
the
I don't want
settings.
to. I can't. It says if you adjust settings, you lose everything.
We only did one pick anyway.
So what, do you want to go back?
I just want to make sure.
Okay, hold on. Fine. We'll go get out of here. You got it. Look, PFF big board. Okay. Everybody, you see what Edgar's doing? Do you see this? He didn't like the way something fell, so he manipulated it. He
It's not
changed
like I
it.
felt. I just wanted to make sure that we were doing
He
this.
tilted it.
We already did one mock draft.
All right, you see all this? Look at this. All of this is basic setup, right? All of that is basic setup. PFF big board 7 turbo. I'm going to switch it to fast now just to give you extra time because you drove me nuts. All right. Edgar, are you appeased? Are you satisfied with the settings here? Do you think that I am tilting this game?
No.
Okay. Does anybody else think that I'm being a little bit shisty here? I cannot have my integrity questioned here on a Wednesday afternoon.
That was
while
not
I'm
your
doing
integrity.
mock
It
drafts.
was the integrity of the system.
Listen to this. All right. Edgar, are you ready to start this over again?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay. I'm going to pick somebody completely different. I'm going to just go nuts now. All right, let's see. Go through. Dylan Thiedemann, Fano gone. All right, so this time they did have Kenyon Sadiq of 15. I also think that's realistic, Edgar, as in that conversation we were just having about Kenyon Sadiq and how likely would the Panthers be to pick him at 19 if they stay there. I also think there is a real chance he's gone. I think that a team falls in love with an athlete like that and says, hey, we're going to take him over the rest of this class. So that makes sense to me. Real quick, before we get back into it, I do want to check the chat because we've got a lot of involvement here today too. JP checking in from the UK, man. JP, glad you're able to catch these afternoon shows, bro, because I know that those late nights, the 9 p.m. on the East Coast here in America are tough for you, man. It's like 3 a.m. You're over there. You're already like six beers deep, struggling to keep the eyes open. So I'm glad you're here. Keaton's here as well. Keaton, good to see you, man. Racing Jason in the house. He says here, I just seen Kenyon had the best betting odds of being drafted by the Panthers. I love him, but I've moved on from drafting him in the first. Yeah, it's entirely possible. Katie's already throwing tomatoes at me when I said Caden Proctor. I'm already getting beamed in the chat for going for that. They call me channeling my inner David Gettleman. They said, "Oh goodness gracious." Loved how Matt Waldman said adding KC would make T Matt, Coker, and KC all interchangeable inside out guys. Let Edgar creative. That's what sold Edgar. Don't let him fool you, man. Matt Waldman is the most convincing SOB in the world. He comes on here and he just has all these great analogies. He makes me look like an amateur with analogies, and he just convinces us all to do things differently. Okay. Keaton, thank you very much, man, for the super chat. Appreciate you, man. I don't have a beer, but I do have a cold brew, so I'll cheers you to that. I'm back on the horse with the cold brew, Edgar. I took almost an entire afternoon off yesterday, and I got right back on it this morning. Okay, let's go back to this mock draft. I'm still going to go Caleb Lomu. I'm just going to keep this simple because I like the pick. I like the logic there with Caleb Lomu. Yeah. So I'm going to take him. You're going to stick with Casey Concepcion?
Yep.
Okay, cool. So we just got to do a little bit of scenic route for Edgar to call me a manipulator of draft simulators. So
I was just saying.
Edgar woke up on the wrong side of the pillow today with me. He's like, hey, Ricky, you're cheating on me already. Look at this. Okay. Are you happy now? Because I don't see Jacob Rodriguez. Is that what you were worried about? Was it J-Rod was there?
I saw him and Chris Bell. So I was just like, I've never seen that
I think Chris Bell could be there. You don't think Chris Bell could be there at 51?
Oh, I do think so. I was thinking for the PFF simulator. I didn't think.
Yeah, gotcha. Okay, so the guys that did go though that could possibly be in play for the Carolina Panthers here at 51, like if we want to talk like in theory, right? D'Angelo Pons, I think, is a guy that perhaps falls to 51 because of his size. I think he's a position of need for Carolina that they could have interest in a guy like him. but he's a physical outlier from their thresholds, right? So that takes a conversation inside those buildings that I'm not sure that I'm willing to bet on happening as far as a predictive mock. Denzel Boston is a guy that perhaps he falls later into that second half of that if you don't go wide receiver first. We know they've had a meeting with him. Maybe that's part of their plan, is meeting with some of these guys that have second round potential. Chase Basantes, they met. Jacob Rodriguez, that's everyone's fan favorite. I think Dan Morgan has shown clear interest in him. Does he fall all the way to 51? There's a lot of chatter. He barely gets out of round one. If he does get out of round one, you're looking at perhaps more of a 40-ish range for Jacob Rodriguez. Maybe the Panthers have enough conviction on him that they decide to trade up in a Nick Scorton style move like they did last year. Or maybe they, they did their due diligence on him, hoping that he falls to 51 and they could be advantageous, but they're not willing to move up for the prospect. So out of those players, I think that's the ones. Chris Brazell, they also met with. I think that's worth noting. That is a player that I could definitely see them having a little bit of interest in there in round two. Edgar, you talk about speed, being able to take the top off, but also having some size that can work as the split end type of receiver, right?
Yep.
I think that he makes some real logical sense there in round two, and I think that's somebody that people maybe should think about. I'm going to start looking here, though, and the first thing that sticks out to me, Edgar, is AJ Halsey. We had to meet with him.
Yep.
They want to address the safety position in this draft. Does AJ Halsey have as much of the versatility that maybe some of the other guys in the secondary could bring? I think that they value that versatility a whole lot. He's got some stuff he needs to clean up as far as tackling. We know how much they do value a sound tackler, especially on the back end of that defense. I think that's one of the things that they are looking to improve. He has the ball skills, though, and the ball production. This is a turnover machine, man. He's got the ball hawking mentality. I definitely think that's a real thing.
Mr. Gimme That.
Mr. Gimme That. That's right. Keith Abney II, I will say this. This is one of my favorite players. I love Keith Abney II, and I think that he's going to make a tremendous nickel corner in the NFL. Very physical dude. He plays much bigger than his frame. He came in at like 5'9" and 6'8", but he's really he's close to 5'10", and he doesn't look small out there by any stretch. Fairly decent length to him as well. I think that he's a really fun player. I would love for Carolina to take him. I'm not sure it happens. Trey Stooks is a name that I think is going to be important here. Does Trey make it all the way to pick 51? If he does, the Panthers have met with him. He fits what I was just talking about with the safety nickel versatility element. So I could see them having some serious interest in Trey Stooks there. Also, 25-year-old who has had some significant injury in his past. How much does that factor into the value at that position, right? Josiah Trotter is a linebacker that I'm very high on. He's my linebacker 3. I think that they have had reported meetings with his teammate, another linebacker from Missouri, but no inclination on meeting with Josiah. Now, if I remember right, Edgar, you're the official visit tracker and interest man. They met with Shamar Stewart last year, correct?
Yep.
And I think that set off everyone's holy crap alarm because nobody wanted Shamar Stewart, right? Like our fan base was very anti-Shamar Stewart, despite him having an incredibly high ceiling and being a physical anomaly of a human. But they did draft his teammate in Nick Scorton. So could there be a little bit of this? I've always wondered this, Edgar. I wish I was in these rooms. I wish I was in the rooms. When they're talking to some of these guys, you think there's like these little like underlying motives too about like, hey, so what was it like playing with Nick? Nick Scorton, good player. Yes. Like, did he help you with anything? Type of deal. Like just kind of like making it still about the prospect, but asking about a pal, right? So maybe when they're talking to this other Missouri linebacker, maybe they do like him as a day 3 prospect. But what if they could also get the idea? We talk about how much they want the human to fit in the locker room and work with the players on the roster. How else better to know what kind of teammate somebody is than talking to the teammate, right?
Yeah.
And like the only way to really get that perspective is to hear it from that teammate. So perhaps they talked to the other linebacker and got a little info on Josiah. Maybe they know enough about him physically that they're into it. I don't know. Just something to think about. The last couple that I want to talk about is Keelan Rutledge. I think he's in play at 51. I think Keelan Rutledge fits what they loved about Cade Mays being the big physical guy, pretty good reach for interior lineman, former offensive tackle at Tennessee, but moved into the interior because that's what he's better suited for. Had like pretty good arm length, and I think that they appreciated that because he wasn't super small and limited on what he could do. Getting to that second level, being able to be a puller and all those things. I think Keelan Rutledge fits that a lot. And I think he gives you a high-end backup guard right now. But then when you have a decision about your $100 million interior in the next year or two, he gives you a right-away starter if you move off one of those guys. What I also think he does is I think he challenges your Luke Fortner competing for the center, as Canales said it. I think he competes for starting center this year. And I think that if he wins it, he holds on to it for the next decade. I'm a big-time Keelan Rutledge fan, and I think that makes a lot of sense. Do they find the value of Keelan Rutledge in the second round? Do they go offensive line 2 picks in a row? Not sure. But you know what I am going to do, Edgar? I am going to throw a wrench in this, and I'm going to pick somebody that I don't think people would anticipate me picking here.
I think we might be picking the same person then.
Oh, are we looking at his name on this sheet right now?
I am.
Is it Max Clare?
It is.
I'm going Max Clare, dude. So look, we had the report that they have interest in Max Clare. We talked about how much do they like Kenyon Sadiq or not, and do they value him as a round 1? Max Clare meets the threshold. Max Clare has a lot of developmental upside still to his game, but he has some really refined moments as a route runner. He has some really high-end moments as a route runner. He's not an incompetent blocker, especially as a move blocker, but he's played some inline. He's capable of doing that, and if he continues to add to that frame, he's got the frame to do it, but he also could stay where he is and work on his explosiveness as an athlete and be head and shoulders above everybody else that we have in that room right now as a receiver. And so my attack here is to give Bryce Young a weapon, but to also add to the dynamic of that heavy personnel that the Carolina Panthers were wanting to be able to operate out of. When they lost JT Sanders last year, it changed things. Not just because of what JT does, but because of the idea of having 3 playable tight ends that they can interchange and make some personnel looks up. So I'm going Max Clare. That's interesting, Edgar. Talk to me about why you're going Max Clare.
So I know I went with KC at the beginning, but part of it is, again, I'm trying to do predictions, right? And so they've been looking around at these tight ends. So they've brought in Oscar Delp. They have brought in Daquan Wright, and they've brought in Justin Jolie. So like this range of tight ends. And so last year, they brought in like I want to say like 9 or 10 edge players, and they Princely was one of them. Nick could have had like I want to couch this by saying I'm not sure that Nick didn't have a 30 visit. He could have had it and wasn't reported. But at the time, we were like, oh, Nick Gordon kind of came out of nowhere because we didn't have it on our interest list, right? And so if you see a cluster of guys, that's why I went wide receiver in first round. Doesn't mean like you have to take one of those, just like Nick Gordon last year. And so of the tight ends, like for all the reasons that you said, right? Like meets the thresholds, route runner, blocking, all these things. Even though tight ends a deeper class this year, they kind of have those types of tight ends in the room already. It's either Max Clare, go high in tight end, or like let's just go wait until UDFA or to the end, because I think you got to get someone that's starting, or you already have like 3 guys that are in the room that kind of can give you what a day 3 guy can give you in year 1.
Yeah, that's exactly it. And that was the thinking with the Lomu pick for me in the first round, Edgar, is that they've done so much due diligence on the offensive tackles that I just think that there seemed to be so much interest. So at tight end, you nailed it. That is exactly where I landed with this Max Clare pick. And from a personal standpoint, this would be the second year in a row that my draft crush would be picked in the second round with minimal interest known until late in the process. We don't know if Nick had that 30 visit with the Panthers, but we did find out after that they did some work and they did some talking with Nick, and like that they were very familiar with him and comfortable with him and had an eye on him. So that's where I think this Max Clare information coming out late reminds me so much of that. And the tight end group, you're right. You can wait and get Justin Jolie or Jolly in round 3, 4, something like that. I think that that's just subbing out a JT Sanders for a JT Sanders type of deal. Not saying that they're the same exact player, but I think that their limitations and some of the things that they do well, some of the things that they don't do well, I think are very similar, man. And I don't think you need to use a pick on that, right? I think that you just try to develop what you have in house and hope for the best. Max Clare, I think, challenges every single person in that room day one. And I think he becomes the potential fit at tight end that they have been searching for years. Cool, man. You know what? I thought I was going off the beaten path, and I thought I was going to get an advantage on you, man. I really did.
I thought I was too.
Dang it. Okay. Well, you know what, though? It does make me feel good about being on the same page with you as far as like the tea leaves, right? And being able to see things. Look at this. Keelan Rutledge and Sam Heck go here at 78 and 79. And Dom Orange goes right. Oh, dang it. So there's the guy that I actually was going to pick in the third, Edgar. Kamari Ramsey. I think that's the player that I think that they're targeting there. That is a played nickel in a bind last year for USC. He's a better deep safety, I think, than he is a nickel player, but he's absolutely capable at both. And I think that versatility is exactly what they like. And I think that he's their kind of player. Good missed tackle rate, very sound fundamental player. Sure, he's not a burner and the most electric that you would think of, but he ran a sub 4.5. A lot of these other guys that people are falling in love with, EMW 4.5 kind of guy. It's just one of those things that for me, man, the testing speed doesn't matter. He plays pretty dang fast on the football field. So Kamari Ramsey would have been my pick there at 3. Now that I can't make that pick, oh man. You got a thought process here on your third pick, Edgar? Did Edgar freeze? Yeah, Edgar froze. He's going to come back. All right, guys. So help me out here. I am looking at this list and I am having a hard time. Connor Lew absolutely catches my eye because that's center one. And I think that makes a whole lot of sense. Chandler Rivers is a nickel corner. I think that he's going to be in play. But again, he's a little bit underneath those physical thresholds. Genesis Smith is a really interesting player. If you want to talk about a true center fielder, a true deep cover safety, this is probably one of the better coverage safeties in the entire class. From like a cover 3, cover 1 standpoint, great range, 6'2", 205 pounds, only 21 years old. The problem with him, man, is that he is a liability a bit on the very back end as far as tackling. He is not a tremendous physical player. He takes some pretty poor angles at times. He seems to avoid physicality at times, but he'll put his shoulder to it and lay the lumber when he needs to. But it's just not his personal desire, I think, is to do that. So at 3, I really wanted Kamari Ramsey, guys. I think that Kamari Ramsey was the player that I felt the best about. I think Bud Clark kind of fits that realm of player as far as being able to rotate into a closer to the line of scrimmage, but a ball hawking safety as well. Bud Clark could definitely be on their radar, I think, for a safety. I'm just not entirely sure. Let's see. Keyshawn Elliott is another guy that I am a big fan of, and we have not drafted a linebacker yet, and I think that they want to update the linebacker position. All right, chat. What say you? You got any inclinations here? How about the Duke offensive line who can play all 5 positions? Yeah, Brian Parker II, JP. That's definitely a possibility as well. Edgar, you're back. Are you all frozen?
Yes. I'm frozen. Sorry.
Okay, good. No, it's okay. Sometimes you have to let it go. That's a frozen joke. You know what I mean? All right. I'll stop doing the kids' jokes now. All right, Edgar, the conversation that I was just having with myself and JP, because JP was kind enough to indulge my crazy for a little bit there. Kamari Ramsey was who I wanted. Connor Lew stands out to me immediately here. I think that the center position, whether it's Sam Heck, Connor Lew, Keelan Rutledge, and Keelan I anticipate is probably gone. Jake Slaughter is another guy that I think they've had interest in. I could see a center being in play here. I think that they want a long-term answer at the center position. But also the safety position here, I think, is still a huge part that they want to address. Genesis Smith, I was speaking about, and Bud Clark were the two that came to me here for the safety position. If it's not Kamari Ramsey, but I do think that safety in nickel spot, they're going to invest in that in the first 3 rounds. So for the spirit of that, what I am going to do here, I think that I'm going to go with the true ball hawk. A little bit older prospect. He's going to be 24 as a rookie. And he's not the best tackler, but he's pretty willing, man. Like Bud Clark isn't scared. And that's the one thing I love about Bud Clark, man. This dude plays like a football player. And Genesis Smith is rangy. He's athletic. He's a lot of fun. But, man, I just can't help but think that what Bud Clark does and his versatility is a little bit more in line with the Carolina Panthers. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go Bud Clark here with my pick, Edgar.
Bold.
Do you have something that you like?
I do.
Okay. What would you like?
Something that stuck out to me in terms of tea leaves was Dan Morgan saying like this defensive line class is top heavy.
Yeah.
Not figurative. They're not talking about body proportions, but we're talking about depth.
Although Lee Hunter can tend to be a little top heavy.
So I was thinking about going defensive line early and thinking about, they've brought in a few people on visits. They brought in Nick Barrett from South Carolina, Tyler Onyedim from Texas A&M, Dominique Big Citrus. We just talked about him. So even if they didn't bring in a guy, I'm thinking about defensive line. The guy I'm thinking about is Chris McClellan up there at the top.
Yeah.
Or I know it's lower on PFF, but in terms of thresholds, in terms of someone they brought in, I know Mike K likes to bring this a lot too. In terms of holes in the roster, they haven't replaced Ashawn Robinson, and so there's a lot of hope and a prayer that Cam Jackson steps up. There's a lot of hope and a prayer that Bobby Brown can be more productive than last year. That Tershawn Wharton, but ultimately, if any of those guys either falters or gets injured, there's no depth there, even at the veteran level. Yeah. And so I'd rather go early at defensive line. I kind of threw myself off because I went tight end second round like you did with Max Clare, but some sort of safety nickel / defensive line, I feel like they would target those because they've shown a lot of interest in those positions. Okay.
So what I'm going to do is I'm going to draft Bud Clark here. And Edgar, that conversation was a good one because I will probably be having it on the next pick. That's why I'm not going that here, is because I think there are players in round 4, Chris McClellan included, that are likely at least project to be available there. And so positionally, I'm going to go safety in the first 3 rounds. I think they have to. All right, so I'm going Bud Clark there.
And then the reverse of you, I was thinking there'll be a safety somewhere, and maybe the Panthers don't typically invest heavy in safety, even though they've shown a lot of injury drafts. So they got Lathan Ransom late. They're okay with Nick Scott. I know they invested in Trayvon Merrick, but they just haven't. Last year, I thought was the perfect year that they were going to invest in the safety, and they didn't. And so,
well, and that would be part of it, Edgar. Though that I would say that's why they're going to do it differently, is because I think that it's been the same case with the tight ends. I think it's been the same case with the safeties, and I think that what they found is that when they invested in T-Mac in the first round, even though they got Xavier Legette the first round before that, they said, hey, if you have a weak spot in the roster, right, and there's a player that you like, positional value historically be damned. Like, go out there and make your team better. And I do think that with the safeties, you run into this issue where after that Bud Clark, Genesis Smith, Zakee Wheatley kind of bunching, I think you run into this issue of so who's the premier safety that you like? Who's better than Nick Scott out of that group? Who could come in and compete to win that spot? Who's better than Lathan Ransom? Who I think they like Lathan, but I think that we saw why Lathan fell to the later portion of the draft at times last year. He's not a super well developed, ready to rock in all facets of the game type of player right now. Can they develop him into that? Possibly, but how long are they waiting to improve that position, right? So for me, I've now got, look at my picks real quick here. I've got an offensive lineman, I've got a tight end, and I've got a safety. That's how I started my first 3. I think that those are 3 positions that you very well may see. I know that everyone likes Oscar Delp. I think that the Panthers like Oscar Delp. This is what I try to do when I build these predictive things, Edgar. You could swap out names for my players right here, but I think that those 3 positions are positions that are highly likely to be addressed in the first 3 rounds of this Carolina Panthers draft this year. So now when I'm looking at pick 4, I am thinking defensive line. I'm still thinking weapons. If there's a wide receiver that I like, this is a place that I'd like to jump because now I got to wait from 119. I wait until I'm down in the 150, almost 160 range. I still don't have a linebacker drafted yet in this draft. I still don't have an interior lineman drafted at this spot. Where do I think I can get the most value at this point for Carolina, right? Caleb Elam's-Orr, I think, is a linebacker that they are very high on. I think that they've had a lot of discussion with him. He's a terrific coverage linebacker, pretty decent in providing some pressure when asked. He's a pretty sound tackler, so he's 7% missed tackle rate there. This is a fun linebacker, and he's got some pretty good size, 6'2", 230. I think his arm length, I don't have it up, but I believe his arm length was in the 32, 33 range. So I think that he's pretty close to their thresholds. That's a guy that I like. Do I like him at 119? Or do I want to try to fill one more spot and gamble that he's still there? I think that I will. I think that I'll gamble one more time. And I think, Edgar, that I am going to go with the player that you just drafted in the 3rd. I believe Chris McClellan will be there at the 4th. And the reason for that for me, Chris McClellan doesn't have hyper athletic testing scores. And when you watch him, he doesn't have the uber athletic get off the line of scrimmage. He's not a super individual solo winner. He is a very combative, very strong, long defensive tackle who is absolutely terrific at cleanup work and duties. You had Zion Young on that defensive line with him. Him and Zion were just kind of bullying offensive linemen. They were just big dudes with a lot of length that kind of like wreaked havoc on offensive lines. But his production, this is a guy who was, recruited by Florida, was a Florida player, I believe, as a freshman and transferred over to Missouri. And his success continued, man. I mean, he's a really good player, but he's not an exemplary athlete. And I think that will push him in this draft, maybe even after guys like the Caleb Proctors and the Landon Robinsons of the world that are exquisite athletic profiles that teams might bet these 3rd and 4th rounders on a little bit more. We've lost Edgar for a second time. Edgar Salmingo I think he's avoiding the draft duel here. I don't think he wants any part of this smoke right now. I think that I've scared him with my prowess of getting his 3rd round pick in the 4th. I think that I've terrified him. Let's bring him back up and let's ask him. Edgar, the people want to know this. Are you running away because I'm going to be able to draft your 3rd round pick in the 4th round and I have scared you into retreat? Is that what just happened here?
That's exactly what happened. I was like, I'm done. I'm
all right. Edgar's cooked, everybody. I did it. All right, Edgar. So I'm going to go Chris McClellan there in the 4th. That's a guy that I've been drafting on Panthers on Tap for weeks now in this range. Okay. I think that he's a target for them in this draft.
Okay. For the record, I like him. I like Daryl Jackson. Sort of like the big threshold space eating type guys. If they want to go like a little bit lighter and go for more pass rush from the interior, I like guys like Tyler Onyedim, and I do like Caleb Proctor, who hasn't really popped up in terms of pre-draft interest, and he's plays not a major conference, but he is incredible pass rusher. So
I'm a fan of both of those as well. Onyedim, I believe, is in my top 10 defensive tackles, interior defensive lineman, which I think is much higher than most consensus that I've seen. Demonte Capehart also, I want to bring his name up because I think that he fits all of the thresholds. He's got a little bit more movement to him. And, they haven't had an individual with him, but they were at the Clemson Pro Day. And Joe Gilbert talked to the Clemson offensive lineman. Again, you talk about like information. If he said, hey, who was the hardest guy you went up to? Demonte Capehart's a pretty solid football player. He could be the guy that breaks that Clemson curse as well. But I'm going Chris McClellan there. Edgar, is there anybody that you want to see here before you make your pick?
I just wanted to see safety and offensive tackle. So the last two, I would say, positions I've been a lot of interest in are offensive tackle, safety. So I want to go in those directions, these next two, but I just don't know in which order.
Okay. And then so this is what you have available here at safety. And then if you want me to, I can go through and look at the guys who were picked in the last like 10 picks to see if there's somebody else that you want to make a caveat about and say, hey, if this guy's here, this is who I think it would be, or anything like that.
Can you add the corner list to there just to see if there's anybody that's okay?
You're looking for Jalen Kilgore, aren't you?
I mean, that was my first thought, but I was trying to see if there was anybody else before him. And then, can I see the offensive tackles, Ricky?
Sure, Edgar. Anything.
You're
All right, you want me to get rid of the? Let me get rid of those and just give you the offensive tackles.
good. Uh, is Burke like all still buried all the way down?
Yeah, Travis Burke. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm gonna go with I'll go with Trout. So I think that I like Jalen Kilgore more than most, and I do like him in this specific spot. I don't know if he lasts to the 4th round. I don't know if Travis Burke goes close to undrafted. I know for Dane Brugler, author of The Beast, he has Burke in the top 10 is in his top 10 offensive tackles. So I don't think he falls. I don't think Kilgore would fall that far. I like Kilgore, so I'm just gonna go with Travis Burke just because
Okay.
I'm going to predict that Jalen Kilgore doesn't make it to round 4 either.
Okay. I'm less of a Kilgore believer. That's why I went with Bud Clark there in the 3rd, because I think there's a pretty significant gap in where they are as football players right now. Kilgore, I think, does have a high ceiling because of his athleticism, but he's not he's not close to a finished product for me as a football player. I've got some serious questions about processing. I don't think he likes physicality at all, which is interesting because he's a big dude. But yeah, I'm less bullish on him than a lot of people. So I'm going to go Chris McClellan, get that on the board here. You've got Jalen Kilgore. All right, so everyone, you can see what my picks have done so far here. We have 3 picks remaining in this draft. I also think that spot right there, Edgar, is another potential move-up spot with 158 and 159. I could see them if they like a couple players there, right? Like, let's say they like Chris McClellan, but let's say they also really like Trey Zoon, the offensive lineman, interior, has some flexibility to play guard, center, has played tackle for previous years in college as well in the SEC. I think that's a place where they could move 158 and 159 up to like 125, right? And say, hey, we're going to go up here and we're going to grab the center that we want. We don't need those 2 picks later in the next round. We just want this guy and this guy. Like, we want these players. We're going to go and get them. I think that's a very low risk move that I could see Dan and Brandt being decently interested in doing. Maybe even if it's 158 and 159 for like a 135, 205, right? Because they like to trade the same amount of picks, but say, hey, we'll give you 2 right next to each other where you can, make your way, and we'll take it a 70-point gap. I think that's possible, though, so I want to point that out. Next for me, I am going to go ahead and I'm going to go with the guy that I was just talking about, Caleb Elam's-Orr. I think that is actually, crap. Now that I'm looking at it, hold on, give me a second. Don't get so overzealous, Ricky. I want to get a linebacker, but I'm not sure that they're going to feel like they have to draft a linebacker in this draft. Like, I think that they should, but there is just something about this that, to me, if they get to this point and they haven't drafted a linebacker, I don't know that they're going to force it if there's other players that they like. I think that they could also say, hey, Trevin next to Devin Lloyd, we like the opportunity of that developing a little bit more. They brought back Claude Sherless. I think that they do like Claude. Claude's a great special teams player, but I think he also showed that he could hold his own in spot duty when called into defense. I didn't think that he played bad last year. Maybe they do draft a guy like Caleb Elam's-Orr to develop a little bit, and this could be a good spot for that because you're not asking him to come in there and immediately play. But maybe in some of those sub-package looks, Caleb is just – although, Trevin, I don't think Trevin's worst part is his coverage, man. I think that Trevin just has some confidence and instinct stuff that he's got to figure out in the upstairs department. Tough. I don't know here. Wide receiver, you're still looking for type of weapon. I like Eric Rivers a lot. I think Eric Rivers is that field stretcher, yak type of component that if you are interested, you could do that. Malik Benson also is a player that I think that they have shown interest in or talked to. Is that correct, Edgar? They had like a conversation.
Yeah, they said somebody met with them in a pro day, but I don't know who it was. But there was a conversation at his pro day.
That's right. Matt Golban, interior offensive lineman here for Michigan State, I think makes a lot of sense because I do think they bring in a center at some point. I'm not sure what you have here outside of Pat Coogan and Matt Golban are pretty much what you're looking at there. Pat Coogan, I like. He's solid. He's not a tremendous mover. I don't know how well I envision him fitting into a zone system. Matt Golban, though, I have the same questions, man. He's a little bit less of an athlete than some of the other guys that were in this draft class. Parker Brailsford works great for it, but he is small, man. I mean, he is a very slight center, but he is tremendous as a move center, man. He gets out there and does his thing. I'm going to go ahead and go Caleb Elam's-Ori here that was my gut feeling, and I don't think that I've talked myself out of it. So I'm going to go ahead and go him. They've shown a lot of interest in this player. I think he fits what they want. I think developmentally he could work. And I think that he's a special teams contributor right out of the gate as well. So I'll go Caleb Elam's-Ori. What are you thinking, Edgar?
Okay. I wanted to go back to safety and corner, looking at that position. And I already have a pick that I have in mind for the back-to-back. But
okay,
in terms of safeties, what do you think of Cole Wisniewski, Ricky?
I like him. He's obviously got the size that is really intriguing. He's about 6'4", 215 pounds, I think. He's 6'4", 220. They have him listed at. I think he's a little bit lighter than that when he weighed in, if I remember correctly. Yeah, I think that he's fine. I don't think that he's an incredible individual athlete. I'm not sure how that pans out, translating to the next level. He's 24 years old. You can see it there. So when you see some of these older prospects having success, now he had success early too, though, man. When he was 21, 22, I think he had a pretty solid season there at Texas Tech. I think he's fine. I don't think that he's if it were me and I was still looking for a safety, which, by the way, I could, in theory, make this my last pick, so I don't want to give away the goods. This guy right here is the guy that appeals to me more if I'm taking a chance on a big athlete. VJ Payne out of Kansas State is a guy that I'm a really big fan of, that I think everyone that thinks EMW is like the Nick Emanwari type, big physical guy that can play, nickel and stay on the field and kind of be like that coverage multiplier. I think that's VJ Payne. I think VJ Payne is a untapped potential here in this draft.
Maybe I'll wait on it. My first pick, I want to go with an offensive lineman that's like ranked really low, but I think meets the thresholds, meets the intangibles, meets the athleticism, but just, I don't know, maybe it's falling for reasons that maybe you would know, Ricky. But I like Fabechi Nwaiwu from Oklahoma. He doesn't have a center next to his name, but he's been taking center snaps.
Yep.
I do like how he fits everything. He's productive. And then at the Shrine Bowl, he won the Pat Tillman Award for, sportsmanship, for the intangible stuff. So I think in terms of culture fit, in terms of the flexibility between center and guard, obviously he's not a perfect prospect, but we're not getting perfect prospects down here in the mid-day 3. But of that group, maybe he's the one that pushes Chandler Zavala either forward or out.
Okay.
But I like him as that flex spot that Cade Mays used to fill in for us. So I could do one of the picks will be for Fabechi Nwaiwu. And then the other pick, gosh. Can you scroll all the way up for me?
Yeah. Did you want to see a different? I like that pick, by the way. I do like Nwaiwu. We have a profile on him. Or actually, I don't think it's in the draft, but we have one ready that if the Carolina drafts him, we have a full evaluation done on him.
Okay.
So I do like him. And he was good football story too, man. I believe he was like a walk-on at Oklahoma. He was scholarship somewhere else, but walk-on at Oklahoma and kind of earned his way in that locker room. And he did take center snaps towards the end of the year for Oklahoma.
Okay. Can I look at corner?
Yeah. Yeah, you haven't done anything with our secondary, have you?
I have not.
Oof.
Well, I'm happy with the secondary. I think that what they've done in the past is they feel like kind of like we haven't still really discussed Corey Thornton. I think like maybe his success story is kind of like like we could develop some guys. Mike Jackson was cast aside from Seattle, so I feel like maybe they could be a little bit cocky. It's like, why do we have to draft a corner so highly when we're so good at developing Mike Jackson and Corey Thornton? I don't know how they feel about Shaw Smith-Wade. I know how fans feel about him, but they drafted him and thought highly of him as well. So
how does Edgar feel about Shaw Smith-Wade?
I haven't watched enough to see, but I know that what I do know is that he hasn't solidified that spot, that the Panthers haven't done any if he solidified the spot so strongly, then the Panthers wouldn't have gone out of their way to really target that nickel safety position. I know they talked about. There's been chatter about maybe he moves to safety, which is interesting to me. But
he did some
ultimately,
of that. He did some of that last year. They had him rotate deep onto safety last year.
So I'm not going to close the door on anybody, especially someone who's only going into their third year. But again, if the Panthers felt so secure about him, they wouldn't say like, let's go look at a lot of nickels. Let's go shopping for some nickel safeties if we were happy with Shaw. And he's also a smaller guy. So maybe they look at someone bigger.
Yeah.
Right?
I like Hezekiah Masses right there. I think he's got a ball hawking mentality. I think that he's a fun football player. I was high on Noel Williams last year, California corner that came out and had a really nice rookie season, I thought, in the NFL. Hezekiah gives me tiny bit of that feeling, right? Shout out to Panther Gal in here. Says, hey, first of all, hey back. How are you? And then Panther Gal, I'm just going to mess with you a little bit here. She says, Keontae Scott looks good. I'm not sure what you mean by that. He's off the board now. And I don't know if you just mean physically you find him to be a good looking fella. I'm sure he is. He's in great shape. But as far as for the Carolina Panthers, Keontae Scott could be somebody that they have on their board. You know, he's got the Miami connection, Panther Gal, with our general manager, Dan Morgan. He fits in that position that they might be looking for. Don't know about the versatility for Keontae Scott. I think when we talk about the nickel safety, like, back and forth, I'm not sure if he fits that as much as some of these other guys like a Trey Stooks or even a Bud Clark. I think the Bud Clark fits it. And maybe even VJ Payne, like I talked about earlier. I think they just want and I do think that Edgar, they want a bigger guy. I think they want a physical player. And that is where Keontae Scott, Panther Gal, I think that he 100% fits what you're looking for because that is probably the most physical nickel in the entire draft. Sorry for the tangent. I just saw Panther Gal. She comes on the show every now and then to chat and want to make sure that I'm showing love to her.
Yeah. I'm gonna go with Julian Neal here, just because I liked. He's bigger. He's got the length. He's not the nickel safety that we've been talking about, but I'm gonna target that in my next pick. But I forgot who he was up against, but he was pretty impressive against some of the top rated wide receivers. One of the top rated wide receivers, and so that particular game plus his thresholds intrigue me. And I know they looked at Malik Muhammad. I know they looked at some other corners, and so I think it's a possibility. I don't know where Mike Jackson stands. I don't know where Corey Thornton stands in terms of where they project them, but I'm gonna go with that route.
Okay, so you got your two. I had Caleb Elam's, or I went first, and I'm on my second of the back-to-backs here. I do like the idea, Edgar, of drafting a corner with development in mind. I also don't hate the idea of drafting a corner that can rotate in and play a little bit of nickel if you want to ask them to. I was just speaking highly of this player. I'm going to go Hezekiah Masses, and I'm going to take him as my break glass if in case of emergency, boundary, and inside flexibility developmental guy who has some good ball production, plays with good instincts, has a good athleticism. You see there 5 interceptions last year, a lot of 59 passer rating. The zone coverage is his better idea than mirroring and man. I've got good news for you there. The Carolina Panthers play a lot of zone coverage. So I'm going to go Hezekiah Masses there for my second pick, and I'm going to have Bud Clark and Hezekiah Masses and add some real turnover prowess to my secondary here.
I really like Masses. The only reason why I didn't go in that direction was more thresholdy, but I think he still I think he still meets it. There's nothing against Masses at all.
Yeah, he's right on the edge though, because he's slight, man. Like he's not a sturdy built guy. But I think that if you're able to put him in those cover 3 looks, those cover 6 looks, and you're able to use him inside every now and then, right, as a click close type of player, I think he works really well in that regard. So that's where I do like him a lot. All right, so we are on to the final pick, Edgar Salmingo Jr. I appreciate you not running away after that last interaction that we had. You actually stayed through for this pick, which I really enjoy. It's nice to do this with you and not just, have a pick and then you run for cover. All right. So here's my haul right now, everybody. I've got Caleb Lomu. I went in the first, Max Clare, Bud Clark, Chris McClellan, Caleb Elam's Orr, and then Hezekiah Masses. Heavy defense after the first two, which I anticipate seeing because I think that that's what makes sense with this class. So what I have not done is address the interior offensive line, and I have not addressed a wide receiver. And again, you don't have to address every single thing just because it says you do, right? Or you think that there's a weak spot. There are still free agents out there that can sign with teams. There's still tight ends out there. If we don't go Max Clare, there's still David Njoku is still sitting out there waiting. A lot of these guys will sign to teams after the draft when they find out which teams have available reps and available snaps and roles that fit what they do well. So that is something to keep in mind. Looking at this, I do think I know Katie is a big Eli Heidenreich guy. And I got to tell you, I think that he could be appealing to the Panthers, Edgar, because of that versatility and as a return weapon, right? Mm-hmm. I think that you could put him back there as a kick returner or maybe even a punt returner. And I think that you could bet on his athleticism and his explosiveness and his shorthandedness to work. And maybe even as a sub package, or not sub package, but sub personnel, you bring him in on the offensive side as a wide receiver in like an empty look, right? I think that he could work in some of those concepts. You're never going to stick him out there on the boundary and tell him, to go and beat somebody in press. Like you're not setting him up for a lot of success in that regard. But I think he's got some value. I'm not sure about the interior offensive line this late. You usually want a guy that can contribute either on the offensive defense specifically or special teams versatility. And offensive line, I don't think you get much of that. I have half a mind to take VJ Payne here because I'm such a big fan of him. And I think that he would just be a lot of fun to add to this type of defense. Edgar, do you want to talk through your thought process here at all and what you might be looking for this pick?
Yeah, I know exactly who I have. He's actually he's a top 10. He's in one of the positions, he's in your top 10.
Okay.
And he should be near and dear to you because of where he attended college. And I don't know why he's falling this far. But I'm looking at
about Jalen Husky.
Meets the thresholds, meets the intangibles, has the versatility in the secondary. He's played outside corner. He's played safety. He has the athleticism. And so I don't know why. I mean, you would know more than I do, but in terms of like why he's fallen this far. But he just strikes me as someone that the Panthers would like. No interest, no visits have been reported about him. But I do think that he would be a perfect match for what the Panthers look for in terms of position and off the field.
I think it's a tremendous pick, first of all. I am a big fan of Jalen Husky. It was not a Maryland bias that found his way into my top 10 either. It's exactly what you just spoke about, though, right? It is the versatility. It is the sound play that he has put on the field every single time that he's been out there. He's not an overwhelming athlete, and I think that that's what it is. I think teams have a lot of hesitation with these secondary players that are not elite athletes, because I think that they're going up usually against elite athletes, right? And so if you're asking them to cover a lot of ground, whether it's a single high look and you're asking them to play true safety, maybe you don't think that he could do it, but I don't know why you would think he can't do it when everything he's shown on his film is that he can do it. And he can do it really well. I like Jalen Husky. If I hadn't already allocated 2 picks into my secondary, this would absolutely be a position where I would look at Jalen Husky. VJ Payne on Jalen Husky, I think, are 2 of the best values in this draft. I truly do believe that. I think that you're going to get a difference-making player. Also, I think that both of them would be tremendous on special teams. I think that Jalen Husky can contribute right away on coverage teams, right? I think that he could absolutely be an impact player in that regard.
I'll also say that if you had to be deficient in athleticism, like safety is kind of a place that you can get away with it. Like you don't have to be. I feel like if you're on the edge, you have to have athleticism, right? If you're a tight end, you have to have athleticism. But safety has been traditionally you can kind of get away with if you have to. And then I'm also talking about a 6th round pick here, and so maybe some special teams options here. But yeah, that's where I'm going with my pick.
Now you still see Tyler Onyedem is here listed technically. I doubt he's going to be on the board at 200, but if he is, a double tap would be awesome. Getting his pass rush prowess. as a player, you know, in the Turk Wharton fashion, if you will.
Mhm.
Quarterback, I think, is probably still on the board here. A guy like Haynes King, Sawyer Robertson, Luke Altmaier, I think makes some sense there for him. But I am looking for a player that they have met that I do think that they might have some interest in late in the draft as a developmental player. Keyshawn James Newby, 6'2", 245. Edge player, but he can play a little bit, you know, slide him inside a tiny bit. I wonder what they would look at as far as like a NASCAR package, bringing him in possibly. I think that this is a pretty productive player. You see here, 2 straight seasons of 10 sacks, 5 sacks a year before. I think that the fact that they've met with him, the fact that he's got a high motor, good energy, production, I think that you could see them take a chance to bring him in and say, hey, come make the roster as a special teams player, compete for a, you know, carved out role in pass rush obvious situations. Just because they brought in Jalen Phillips, I don't think that they're entirely like situated with their pass rush. I think they know how bad it was, that they are still going to be open to drafting somebody like that. And just looking at him from a special team standpoint, I think that he can contribute right away. So I am going to bring him in, and I am going to make him my final pick.
Wow, Ricky.
What do you think?
I think what's hard in terms of predictive mock drafts is trying to figure out names, because there's like a cluster of guys that you can go with, and they're,
Yeah.
I don't want to say they're similar in terms of how they play, but they're similar in terms of grades and similar to what they contribute to the team, but they have just different, they diverge a little bit in what their secret weapon is or their trump card is. And so I'm not fully confident looking back at my mock drafts, like, oh, are the Panthers actually going to do this? But I feel fairly confident in terms of positions that they'll attack in the draft.
I think I feel the same way. Caleb Lomu, I do think, is an actual player that they would like, but I think that the tackle position is obvious. I love that we both have Max Clare. First of all, that probably just made my day. Panther Gal with the super chat says, I just hope my faves don't go to division rivals. Panther Gal, you have no idea how much I relate to that in my soul. When the Tampa Bay Buccaneers selected Jacob Parrish last year, I lost a part of me, and I'll never get it back, Panther Gal. I will never get that part back. Then they drafted David Walker later as well, and David, you know, tore his ACL. But there are multiple players. Jalen Polk now is going to be he may not be a thorn in anybody's side if he continues to do what he did in the NFL, but he may also be a thorn in my side, and I was very high on Jalen Polk as a Saint now. So I feel that 100%. Panther Girl, I hope you'll join later tonight too and watch the show.
You know, Ricky, there's not very many guarantees in the NFL draft, but the only guarantee that I'll tell Panthers fans will happen is that a division rival will pick somebody that you wanted.
100% will happen. It is clockwork. You know, I've got I can't remember exactly which prospect it was that I wrote this about, but there's a analogy or a metaphor or something. I don't even know how you describe it. I don't know how to describe any of the shit that I say, Edgar, to be completely honest.
Just make up a word, Ricky.
Yeah. An analogifor. An analophor.
Yeah. Analogifor.
It's an analogifor in the Carolina draft guide, where I set you can set a Philippe Patek to this guy because of how mechanically it always happens. Well, that's how you could do with a draft crush of mine being drafted by an NFC South competitor. You could set the most luxury of luxury watches to the fact that it is going to happen. It is the one thing you can take to the bank, is that Ricky is going to be sad about a draft crush at some point on draft weekend. Edgar, I feel pretty decent about this. You have yours written down, correct?
I do.
You have mine there, or do I need to save this?
I have yours.
Okay, you have mine as well. So what we're going to do, guys, if you're familiar with the draft guide, our predictive drafts were in the back section of the Carolina draft guide. We're going to put these drafts that you just watched us do and heard all of our reasoning and our logic for now. So there's a little bit more understanding about what it is that we're doing. You're going to see these in the back of the draft guide. Edgar is updating that bad boy a couple different times through the draft weekend. He's already got version 2 is out now. So if you looked at the original one first, it was missing some of the analytics section. We just didn't get to them all. There are analytics filled in for all the good guys now. So you go in there, you look at it. There are many updates. Edgar, maybe you can describe all of the updates that you've made, and then you can take us out here at the end.
Yeah, I know people have been asking about the threshold. Like I didn't put at the beginning of the positions like possible matches for
Yeah.
physical threshold. So I could put that still in, but analytics in there, updates to like typos and things that we have. So we added the tip jar. Thank you again for everyone who's supported both financially and non-financially. It means a lot to us. I just put this out here because it's funny that the idea was people wanted CGJ and ended up taking Will Greer, and now Will Greer is back on the Panthers, and so it's life coming full circle. So talk about flashbacks. We have him back in black and blue.
Yeah.
The person that's giving these nightmares, JP.
Love it. All right, Edgar, take us out, man.
Yeah. So for everyone that's joined us today, thank you for being with us. We're so thankful, so appreciative of your support. We've got a lot of things coming up. We've got a ginormous. That wasn't a made-up word, Ricky. That was a word.
That's a real one. Yeah, it doesn't have the red squiggly line under it when you type it.
We got a ginormous mock draft coming to you tonight. Tomorrow we're going live during the draft. We're under very heavy, strict orders that we cannot spoil any picks, and so join us. Don't spoil anything, but like we're at that point where tomorrow's Christmas, Ricky. Happy Draftmas Eve.
That's right.
But thank you for being with us. We appreciate you all. For Ricky, I'm Edgar. Thanks for joining us today.